here.
Yeah, I was just talking to Chappelle before he got here about how his roommate has coronavirus, but he's lucky that he doesn't. So.
Oh my gosh! I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad you're okay. Well,
I just got my results back last night, so.
Okay, good. As long as you're safe and healthy, I mean, make him stay on the other side of the apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, stay in your room. Like leave soup.
Order takeout. Don't use the kitchen, the bathroom. Get you a bucket. Don't come here.
I know.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I know my girlfriend works with elderly, so she's been freaking out and just wanted me to,
Oh, okay. Well, she's been tested though. She's good, right?
Yeah, she's good. Otherwise, I think we would know.
Yeah. You're right.
That's the whole scary part, though, is like you get tested and then maybe you just like touch something at the grocery store and then you're fucked, so who knows?
Exactly.
Anyway, guys, thanks for taking the time. Welcome to the podcast. For the listeners, got Chelsé Greaux and Shapel Lacey, hilarious stand-up comics here. And Chelsea, I know you've been on the pod before, and so you're familiar with the concept that it's about learning things the hard way.
Yes.
And I had paused it a month ago just on hiatus because I kind of just threw all this stuff, mental health wise, just like feeling like I just wasn't feeling it, and feeling like talking about my dumb past stories was not so relevant. So I was like, let me just kind of see, I just didn't feel up to it and excited. So I just kind of stopped. When you have a project you're not excited about, why do it?
Right.
And then I thought, like, when all this shit started popping off, even though it's not new, that like, systemic racism is a problem, like with these protests and everything, I was like, well, maybe I could use this as an outlet to sort of accidentally teach people, since a lot of my Black friends are like, I'm sick of white people asking me to teach them how to not be racist. I'm fucking tired. So I'm like, let me see, maybe by mistake, just like sharing your guys' like art and creative work and all that. And then like hearing some stories might accidentally give people some perspective that aren't really hearing about it or getting it so far, and that's like one of the things that I want to ask everybody, just so they see where I'm coming from. And I, not like trying to make it like an opportunistic thing, but like, how are you feeling about me sort of using it for this? Like, how do you feel about that? And you can be honest and be like, oh, it sounds like fake, whatever, who knows? But I'd like to know the perspective to make sure that I'm not.
I think we need as many outlets as we can. So if this is, one of them, I think, it's just as important as going to a protest or anything like that. I think the more it's, out there and being exposed, the more it's able to, just help people just, eventually come to this understanding. So I think everything, every tool works when it comes to a specific situation like this. That's what I think.
Yeah.
To echo what Chappelle was saying, like, I honestly, I agree, because, at the end of the day is like, I think we're at the point now where white people, I think, are white allies. It's like things like this. It's like using your platform, using your voice, using whatever resources you have to not, because you don't have to educate Black people. We already know. It's about educating. It's about using your resources to educate other white people and other people in general, because honestly, like, that's what the problem is. And I think that, because I know, and this is what's so hard to me, another part that's kind of hurts my heart, is I know plenty of white people that are not racist, that are not prejudiced, that are really honestly just good ass people, and they don't appropriate culture. They're just like, listen, I'm cool being white, I'm cool being me, and they're good people. And honestly, those are the white people that Black people end up liking the most anyway. Like, it's just like the people that are just real people. And I think that's so, when you use your voice and your platform like in this kind of a way, it's so necessary. So I would never shame somebody for trying to learn more. Like, that's like shaming a student for asking a question,
right?
In a classroom.
Totally. Yeah. And just like, even for me, like, as somebody who is always like, not like, has always thought and cared about racism and been like, I want to know what to do. I want to learn more. I still realize how little I did know until I've sort of been forced to learn the history just based on what I've been taught and being like, well, shit, that happened. Oh my
yes.
God. And I'm fucking 35 years old. So I'm like, damn, you went to college. Like you know.
Oh, you look good, girl. I see you. Ain't got no wrinkles, cheekbones tight. I see you.
But I'm like, how do you not know this? Like so many people just don't know because like the privilege of not having to, you know.
I think that just comes like, you know, from our educational system in general. You know, it's just not, you know, I always think about the World of Black History Month, and it's you know, once that month is over, it's like people forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, now it's not a thing anymore because it's like, hey, we already talked about that. You know, that was back in February. Why are we, you know? But it's like it doesn't really do it justice. You know, especially when you think about you kind of learn the same exact thing throughout that month. And
right. It's always the same. They just like copy and paste into the next year.
Exactly. And then you even mentioned how you realize like, oh, I didn't know this happened. I didn't know this happened.
Right.
And I think that's like a thing. Look at that light. Yes.
My homegirl. Okay, so I was hanging out with my homegirl drinking wine. Like literally, I walked in the door and she was like, "Do you want water or wine?" I said, "I'll have the latter." And and then but she's so nice. She has a whole ring light and everything because she does self tapes and stuff. And I'm like. Yeah. And she just on the phone with you guys, and she's like setting it up, and I'm like, "Yay, I'm like it." So taking up a hole, there's your
looking good, Chelsea. No, I've got like my bright lights on or my whatever. I'm like, I want a ring light. I want to look like because you're glowing. You're glowing.
Right. Thank you so much, girl. You know, the stress, you know, has finally exited my pores, and now it's just clear.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, to go off that, yeah, it's just a thing that like. You know, I don't think people would be so confused as to why, you know, things are going on, why things are being said.
And why everybody's so mad. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was already just there to exist for people to just know, you know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. You know, it's just, you know, you can only tell. So there's so much history.
Right.
You know, that month doesn't really do us justice.
Yeah, and it just gives like the top line information, and it doesn't show like all like at least for me what I've noticed and like trying to educate myself more through these past few months is like all of the like the harder parts are left out. Like it's always just like, oh, MLK peaceful protest. It's like, well, no, there's a lot of damage being done and a lot of anger and a lot of like necessity for that, you know.
Well,
and
go ahead.
Just saying like, you know, simplifying it down to saying like, oh, well, you don't have to break a window. It's like, well, maybe you fucking do have to break a goddamn window.
Yeah.
To show, because you can put up a new window, you know what I mean? Like, but like, it's like this is an indication that like, this has been going on for so long. Like, why is it now that we're paying attention? And why are we now like able to find the information better? You know, who knows? But
And you know, it's interesting because I have heard a lot of people bring up the whole why thing. Like, why now? Why George Floyd? Why was he the catalyst? And this is my thing. I just like we don't care why people do the wrong thing. I don't care why people do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, people are doing the right thing. And yeah, I would have loved for it to happen when Rodney King. I would have loved for it to happen during Jim Crow. I would have loved for it to happen then, but it's happening now. And at this point, you know, we can't sit here and waste. It's a waste of time to even have, for me, not here, but I see on social media and even in one-on-one conversations, people are like, oh, well, why now? Even, you know, and this is Black people, white people, everybody's bringing this up. And to me, what I said was, look, I don't care why it was George Floyd that made everybody go, okay, let me put my foot down and get in these streets and pound the pavement, you know? Because if these officers are being brought to justice, if they're getting charges brought up against them, and it's to the point now where, like everyone's putting them on blast. It was a Latino woman that posted a video of the second officer that got released on bail that murdered George Floyd, one of the ones that held like his back down.
Yeah.
Like she posted him. She was right there up in Walmart buying Oreos, you know, which I mean, honestly, I'm really just mad that Oreo didn't speak out. I would have sent him a direct tweet. Like, please don't buy our product.
Yeah.
Especially on camera, fam.
Here's your chance, Oreos.
You know?
Yeah. But it's
Oreo didn't say nothing. And they serve a black product. Like, I'm sorry, but Oreos are a black product. Oreos, I'm just saying, black people are the first people put me on the Oreos. Like, so.
Are Oreos one of the boycott products? Just so we know, because it's,
well, girl, I can't keep up. That's what I'm saying. Like, is Oreos now too? Because like, I already know, and it's like In and Out and like freaking, McDonald's been on the list. McDonald's been on every list that we shouldn't buy from. But then,
I mean, they've been killing us for years just with their food, right. But it's so addicting. Like, I've been addicted to McDonald's several times, and now,
and we've all been drunk at 3:00 in the morning when open bar McDonald's.
Yeah, and you're like, I need it,
That's how to get you. There we go. We got you. We know you're gonna drink some whiskey tonight. You're gonna call us.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so many things, and there's so many like shitty things happening, like pandemic also mixed into the whole fucking thing, where you've got like the angry Karens that are not only racist, but they're also not wearing a mask. And it's like, we could have been done with that shit. Focus on the other problem. I'm like, Jesus.
Well, I think there's, I just see that there's just so much that like, everybody's like, man, I can't sit in this, like I just want 2020 to be over. And it's like, why want it to be over when we could just be here in this and understand how to be uncomfortable and understand how to climb out of this. We need this, because what's been happening is, people have been sitting at homes, and a lot is being exposed, and you got a lot of people that, that have time to just sit and think and really question things that have never really been questioned before. So I personally, I'd rather be in it than to try to run away from all that's going on. It's more of a benefit for us than we actually think. We now have a story to tell. We now have something to learn from. We have something to like take with us to the future and explain to the people like, yo, I heard about this that happened in 2020. What was that? And it's like, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. This is why we're here now. This is why we have this now. This is why, that's how I think of it. It's like, the last thing we should ever want to do is, run from it. It's more like,
no sweeping it under the rug. It's like, we've got this fucking psychotic president. We've got the fucking coronavirus. Like, it's like, almost like the earth was like, if you will not, it's like, when your body, like in Chelsé, we've talked about this, like how your body like makes you take care of it, like because because like stress and physical health, like, and mental health are attached and connected. It's almost like the world was like, you guys are not fucking listening. I'm going to give it all to you until you can't ignore it.
Well, that's how I know Mother Nature is a woman. Okay, because that's how we do. We can take a lot for a while, but when it comes to our 15th year together, you still cheating on me, I'm pulling out some knives. And and you can be mad, and you're gonna be like, well, why are you yelling? You haven't yelled in 15 years. It's like, well, I'm screaming now because the whispers didn't matter. Mother Nature been whispering to us, and that's a whole nother thing too. But like, I do think that like what's going on right now is like, like, we cannot afford to be uncomfortable. Like, think about how much great art came out of like the 1950s and 60s, right? What was going from the 50s to the 70s? That was a very high like art production time as far as like, writers and writers and painters and comedians and activists and all that. And it's like, all that had to happen during that time. And now we look back on that time with such, oh my God, look at them, what amazing stuff went on. But they were living through it. What we're going through right now, like my parents went through the civil rights. They were alive in the middle of that. Like, my mother grew up in Detroit, like Detroit riots, all of that stuff, saw all of that stuff, experienced that stuff. And it's like, they went through these horrible times. But I think the whole thing is like, obviously it's a testament to the human spirit. It's a testament to like, people have got through this, way worse things like than this and that, without Instagram,
Yeah, right.
My mom,
you're so right.
No IG, Facebook, no Twitter, the Washington Post was IG, and it came out once a week, that was like, man.
That's like, you're so
the original Swipe Right was turning the newspaper page. That was the original.
Yeah.
And so they got through that at that time. And as far as coronavirus, I did see a Facebook video that went viral of this woman. She's 100 years old, and she was actually born in 1920 when influenza which is the common everyday flu,
yeah,
was the pandemic when it first hit the U.S. and there was a quarantine. And she talked about she was born in a quarantine. It was just her and her mom for a long time, and then people helped out as much as they could. And then before you knew it, she was out in the world again. And to me, she's now 100 years old, and I think that's a testament to we have human beings. We've gone through horrible things. So as far as coronavirus specifically is concerned, I do feel like we will come out on the better end of that. But I do think it's the media in some cases is trying to use it as a distraction with the protests and stuff like that, which I'm glad that these experts just came out today saying that the protests had nothing to do with spiking coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, because everybody at the protests wearing fucking masks and walking around with hand sanitizer. Like, I was so impressed by how careful and even though, you're tight, like shoulder to shoulder in some of these, the situations. The first one I went to, I was trying not to have to be touching people, but it's we're wearing masks, we're washing our hands, we're doing it right. And after that, big ass protest, I didn't have coronavirus, so it's I blame it on Memorial Day weekend. People go to the beach and shit,
why? Well, see, they think they slick. You know what I blame it on? Because for real, Garcetti's originally said, first of all, none of this stuff was supposed to open until after July 4th weekend. That was, people forget.
Yeah.
In May, maybe about mid-May, they were we're going to open stuff after July 4th.
Mm-hmm.
A week, 10 days after they saw all the protests, they were, oh, wait a second. Are those blacks, whites, Latinos, and Asians hanging out together, conversating, friendly, and actually getting along and actually talking about change and hugging each other? Oh no, open this shit up today.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
They did. They opened it right then.
They opened all this stuff about a month earlier than they originally planned on doing it. And now coronavirus is spiking because y'all rushed that shit. Even in Italy, I saw in Italy, their coronavirus cases are starting to level out because they, you know what I'm saying? It was too early for them to open. But see, American thing about that capitalism, and they're because that's the 1%'s biggest fear is what's going on right here. Even this podcast we're doing right here, they don't want us to have these kinds of conversations.
No.
They're threatened by that because there's more of us than them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello?
More. Yeah.
Yeah, we outnumber them. That's why the fucking National Guard is there. They're uh-oh, we're in trouble, and they're lower in the helicopters so we can't hear as well and shit. And it's why are there two helicopters right there?
I didn't think about that. You're right.
Yeah, they're trying to drown it out because we're sitting there being fuck Garcetti, that sort of shit.
What's up with the fireworks? What's up with the fireworks?
Oh, you guys have been having that too every single day. People are what are you doing for 4th of July? I'm I didn't even know it was coming because I don't know what day it is. And I've been hearing fireworks every day.
Every day. I don't know if it was like this for you guys, but I was hearing it before the pandemic broke out.
Oh, really? No.
Yes. I've been hearing it before the pandemic, before the protest. I've always just been hearing it. Then literally last night, there was a dude, an adult. I thought it was these kids that were doing it. It was literally an adult. He literally walked out into the middle of the four-way stop right outside my house and lit a big one. And I'm and I was getting ready to go up to him, but a lady caught him before I did. And she was just why are you doing this here? She was and I felt bad because she has a son that's autistic and he was getting scared.
Oh,
you know, and he was just she was don't, just go. You don't have to do, what do you, do you not realize the level of disrespect to the people that's living here?
But they're fast though, right? They're not doing it all night. I feel I hear 2 or 3 a night every night. Sometimes
it's not all night.
Sometimes it's just a pop sound, but I do see the big ones, and I'm who's doing it? Did the
you know what I think it's so asinine to me because when you go to a fireworks show, there's a reason that people doing the fireworks are far away. You know, every time, and I grew up in Virginia, we used to always go to fireworks shows, you know what I'm saying? And it's all the people are in a field, and then somewhere far in the distance is the people shooting off the fireworks. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, they're on a barge or something. Yeah.
They're wait, I have never ever, I've been going to fireworks shows since I was in diapers. I have never once met somebody who was shooting off the fireworks for a professional show.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they were far away. Because they're supposed to be.
And it was different because
your side is shooting off to kill a bunch of people if they're too close to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's the difference because I'm oh, it's probably just these kids. I can handle that. I'm whatever. But when I saw that it was a fucking adult? I'm like, bro, you in your 30s. What are you doing? Like, like go home.
Yeah. Did you ever find an answer to like what that guy was doing? Like, did you talk to the lady who went up there?
She just told him to leave, and he was like, okay, you know, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. And it's like, what?
What? Everybody's been asking this. We need an explanation. Listeners, if anybody knows why the fuck this is happening, please.
Not a clue, but it was pretty wild. But you know, at first I was like, it's probably just some kids, you know.
Or it's like some conspiracy to like blame black people more, like you know, exactly. when the white people and then they write like and they spray paint something, and you're like, nah, it was not somebody from BLM.
He had a lot of them. He had a lot of them with him, and I'm like, this is what it is. I was like, it's an adult. I was like, it's
just showing up in the middle of the 4-way stop to shoot him off. Like, that's crazy.
And then he walks away like he didn't do it. And I'm like, bro, I see your fireworks right there.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was insane.
I'm glad you survived, because you know we got nothing to worry about than getting like, you know, attacked by fireworks. You know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
That is. But yeah, but I hear them. I just wanted you to agree with you. I hear them too. Yeah. I think they're happening. They are happening. I'm in North Hollywood. I'm like, it's too much. It's like, yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest. I was coming from Chick-fil-A.
You know what? You know, see, this is why I'm on a mixed feeling for Chick-fil-A. You know why? Because when I went to the Tuesday after George Floyd's murder, I was out in Hollywood with like protesting and stuff, and the the employees of Chick-fil-A and Dave's Hot Chicken were like out there, like they were at their fist up and everything, and I was like, oh, all these chicken companies know what's up, okay? They were like out. And that's not even a racial thing, but it's just like real talk. Like all these chicken companies, like that's who it was. Popeyes employees, Chick-fil-A, and Dave's Hot Chicken. Those are the only employees from businesses that I really saw out there, like in their uniform with their fists up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, but at the same time though, Chick-fil-A, I feel like with this movement, they were like, oh no, we got to get it right this time because we fucked up with the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They fucked up stuff. They were like, oh, no. We're going to be out. No. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, right. But you also have to remember, like, who is doing what, where. Like, there's always going to be some, like, secret board member underneath. And that's not, like, the whole thing. But, like, I've always been a boycotter before, like, this year is, like, the first time I've ever went to a protest. Like, I've never even, like, protested for, like, women's march and shit. But I was like, I can't not, you know, for like, there was just.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I'm like donating and boycotting, that's just not enough, you know? But like, I've always understood and been on board with the idea of like, well, if money is like what makes shit happen and the people with all the money are paying the fucking asshole that I don't want, then I'm not going to give them my money. Like, it's simple.
Yeah.
But there's still, but, there's also so many like doing business ads, like, and underneath, you know, that it's like, you can't beat yourself up too much when you make the mistake, or you're like, I really, because those nuggets are so good, you know.
Well, this is the thing. See, exactly to your point, Jessica. I thought about this too, and I remembered. I was like, in a lot of Black neighborhoods, the only food options are McDonald's or Taco Bell or other businesses that we all know gave money to Trump's reelection campaign and have done nothing for Black people. Yeah. And the thing is, so that's how I think a lot of their business comes from. It's just that when you go to predominantly Black neighborhoods, they a lot of them are food deserts. You know, a lot of them do not have, you know, the resources that they need. A lot of them don't even have a grocery store. Like you know, back in the day, I used to see a guy, you know, we don't get into that, but I used to entertain a guy, you know, and he lives, you know, in like South Central area. So he usually visited me. But when I did visit him, you know, he talked about how, like, you know, going to the grocery store was a pain in the ass, because he said if he wanted to go to an actual grocery store, the closest one to his neighborhood was like a 45-minute bus ride away from his apartment, and then 45 minutes back, you know, because he didn't have a vehicle, right?
And then you can only get like a couple of fucking things. Like, you can't get a whole week's worth of groceries on the bus.
That's what I'm saying. He said, so obviously he had a full-time job. He worked like maybe like 9-10 hour days a lot. And, you know, you come home from a long day, you're like, oh fuck, you realize you don't have anything in your house. You can't walk up the street to Ralph's or up the street to Trader Joe's. There isn't one. And the bus is already like, it's late, so the bus is already running at a slower schedule. So what he would have to do a lot of times, he goes to the liquor store. And this is how I know that this is intentional. He went to the liquor store with, you know, we went to go and get limes one night. We were drinking tequila because, you know, it was about to happen. And so you know how the night ended. But to get ready for the night, you know, we went to get the tequila. And then when we were at the liquor store, I asked the gentleman, this is an Asian man. I don't know which country, but I knew he was an Asian man, and we were asking him if he had limes. Because, you know, at the time I was living in West Hollywood, and I was used to all the liquor stores. They all sell limes, lemons, oranges, bananas.
It's like almost like a little mini grocery section and like the fancy.
Just mini.
Yeah.
Right? So asked the Asian gentleman, I said, sir, we're buying tequila. Do you have any limes? He said, oh no. He said, I can't. He said, you know, in this neighborhood, in order to get a produce license, it's $40,000. And he said that he used to carry limes, lemons, and all that stuff. But then health inspector came in unannounced, saw that he was carrying those vegetables. Like he literally had apples, lemons, limes, oranges, and bananas. That's all he had, you know, just like how 7-Eleven be set up with the little
just a few of each. Yeah.
Just a few. So he said that when the health department came in, they fined him $15,000 because they said he didn't have a produce license. And he was like, well, I didn't know I needed to have a produce license for these kinds of fruits that, like, you know, I'm not selling like strawberries and fucking like asparagus.
These are like a part of like the condiments that go with liquor, you know?
Right. So now this is a South Central liquor store owner, right? He told me in that neighborhood, it costs $40,000 to $50,000 for a produce license, but $10,000 to $15,000 for a liquor license. Okay. Now on the flip side, again, remember I lived in West Hollywood. I know somebody who owns like a restaurant like on Melrose, you know, that I used to work with. And he told me, he was like, in order for him to get a produce license in West Hollywood, it's about $10,000 to $15,000. And in order for him to get a liquor license to sell liquor, that's why at his establishment, he only sells beer and wine. Because a liquor license is $55,000
normally.
And I was like, it's literally and these are two areas that are about a 20 to 25 minute drive from each other.
Yeah.
So it's just wild that the prices are just flipped.
Yeah. They want you to have a lot of liquor, but not a lot of food, and not a lot of good, healthy food, you know, like.
Exactly. And then people want to complain about like, why isn't this not offered in Black neighborhoods? It's because they have set it up for it not to. That's how I know it's intentional. Yeah. Why is a produce license in South Central the same cost as a liquor license in West Hollywood?
Exactly.
Right. No, that's insane. And it's true. And it's like, it goes to that whole redlining thing that's like, oh, that was abolished 50 years ago. It's like, well, no, the fuck it wasn't. Like, forget about like
they never changed it.
Right. Well, it's also like they just changed the name of what happens, and there's like districts, and there's like zoning rules, and the zoning laws, like working, like, because I work for a company in Florida that works in city government. It's like everything is about the zoning and what you're allowed to do in that area, and people they can change the codes if they get enough people behind them. You know, at like the little city meetings that you keep seeing people screaming about masks at, like. And if they prevent us from knowing those exist, which they do in Los Angeles a lot, like, because my big part of my job is like making it known that it exists so that everybody can go and has the opportunity to go. They got rid of like the type of community organizations for like the little areas that do what I do, like to like let people know what's happening in Los Angeles years ago. And so it's like, you'll maybe see like a stapled like black and white flyer printed out from Microsoft Word being like, there's a city meeting coming up to like make all these new zoning laws, and you won't even fucking know it.
You don't even
you won't even know it until it's too late. And like next thing you know, like you have this problem. And it's like it's absolutely intentional.
What's so wild is that like we literally have the ability, as a country have the ability to just do the fucking right thing and set us up for the best situations possible. We literally have that ability to, but because of so much fucked up shit in the past, they just want to sweep it under the rug and kind of just like that's what it is. And it's like, why is it we ask for change of that? Why is
Yeah.
that weird? Like, why is
Yeah.
that a difficult thing to just like, hey, we should probably change this? Why is that like why is that a weird thing or like a conversation that no one wants to have? You know,
Well,
like
because like the people that have the most money don't want to lose the money, you know? It's like
it but at the same time, like what happens is like you lose a consumer.
Mm.
You know what I mean? If you want to set yourself up for a situation like, yeah, you could go ahead and fight for all the money you have, but at the end of the day, you're going to lose the consumer. And what does, you know, what's important in this country is the fucking consumer for your, you know, for a business. You know, needless to say.
supposedly, you know, but
Supposedly,
the way that they're acting, and it's like, but like to me, it's fucked up, and like this just shows like, you know, how easy it is and has been for me to not necessarily pay attention, like because like the city level government shit that's happening right now, the protests are trying to, you know, bring awareness to, and it's working, and they hate that it's working, which is why like what is it, like the chief of police is like, everybody please help, please show up to these meetings, because like everybody's like, defund the fucking police. Like I didn't know until all this popped off that the budget was that imbalanced, you know, like because I never had to look at the fucking budget, and I'm like,
no one
had
had to look at it. We didn't know.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why? And that's the whole thing. Is it's like everyone is trying to like, you know, make all this, remix the rhetoric to where everyone's saying, oh, defund the police, like it's a bad thing. They defunded art programs in schools. They have defunded schools in general. They've defunded all education. They have defunded healthcare. They have defunded a lot of things. Okay. Defund does not mean completely go away. Defund means, hey, maybe instead of giving all this money and putting all this pressure on police officers who aren't trained to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, everything is not their problem. Like everybody,
like, you can't send the police to deal with a black person who is schizophrenic, right?
Right.
You know, I'm just gonna give them an example, right? Yeah. If you have a black person that's schizophrenic, you have a 911 call, the police show up, they're not mental health workers. There's a reason why people go to school for years to learn how to deal with these kinds of situations. And it's like, you can become a cop in LA, start to finish, whole process. What is it, like 4 months or something like that?
Yeah, it's short.
It's short. It's like, it's shorter than a lease, you know? It's like, you can be like a police officer in less time than a lease.
Yeah. Were you talking about that on your album, and about how like becoming like an esthetician takes more training?
Or like, I think I mentioned something about like, just, I think something like that about like, you know, just like, oh yeah, no, what I was talking about how is when I had knee surgery, I was excited that I had an Asian surgeon, you know, because, you know, hey, you know, I was trying to make it. And people got upset about that, but then I did talk about how I had when I was waiting to get my surgery, other doctors in the hospital were coming into my room because I have one of those knee injuries that's not as common as like ACL, MCL, and stuff, right? So all these surgeons were like, oh, you know they say comics are hoes for stage time, like surgeons are hoes for surgeries. Yeah. And they were coming in my room like, oh, cool. Oh, patella tendon rupture, I haven't seen one of these since medical school. And like, they were all trying to like hop in. Like, I actually heard some of them talking. They're like, yeah, man, I'm going to talk to her doctor, see if I can get it on the surgery, see if I can scrub in. And I was like, this is not a rehearsal knee. Like, this is the show.
No, this is not rehearsal. Yeah, this is the fucking
this is
show.
Not. But that's the thing is, it's like people, like even in a situation like that, with someone's life is in your hand, like people be thirsty to get out there. And I'm like, no. So it's like anytime people's lives are in your hands, you need as much training as possible. You should not walk around with a lethal weapon and tell me you had 4 months worth of training.
Yeah. And like a lot of the videos, I don't know if you guys have been seeing where it's like always film the police. I started following on Instagram because somebody told me about it, and they were walking around asking about the body cams and how you can tell if it's on or off, and like why they're on or off and all that. And like one of the cops is like, oh, I don't know, we don't read all that. We just like, you know, put it on if we need to or something. And it's like, no, you don't get to be the guy who shows up with a fucking gun all trigger happy when you didn't even read the rules of like your fucking whole entire job.
They don't. That's what's so scary. A lot of these officers be like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, y'all getting a lot of money y'all getting a lot of taxpayer dollars for these I don't knows.
Yeah.
You know, I see way too many shoulder shrugs in the police department.
Yeah. And I think there's just certain people that just, the reason I think the training needs to exist because there's just certain people that should just not be cops. You know what I mean? When you
for sure.
think about it, like I used to do this joke and people used to get upset. You know what I mean? Like, because I grew up, predominantly white neighborhood, and I remember when I had switched schools or whatever, went to more rich school, and a lot of times people be like, they would just say things like, "Shit, I wouldn't want to, run into you in a dark alley." You know what I mean? Like, because they're just like, because they were trying to define like that I was tough and that they were scared of me, but they would just say it in ways that were just so incorrect.
But like that sounds so like not politically correct to be like.
It was just like, I'm like, or you could just say I'm tough.
Yeah.
And I used to talk about like, I would say, I go, well, as much as you don't want to see me in a dark alley, I don't want to see you in a police uniform.
Oh, yeah.
People would get upset about that joke, not even realizing like they would get upset at that part, but they wouldn't get upset at the part where I said, this person said they didn't want to see me in a dark alley. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
It was just like this two-sided thing. And all I'm saying in that joke is like, if you're scared of me, a guy who's smiling constantly, and you wouldn't want to see me in a dark alley just based off of my stature without even knowing me, then I don't want to see you as a cop.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, because those are the people that shouldn't become cops. I have this buddy, he got picked on a lot in high school, just bullied all the time. He always call me up to like, come help him out. And then all of a sudden he started working out and got like buff, as he got older. And then he, every time he just wanted to fight. You know what I mean? Because now he has this buffness.
My God. And he's got all this like extra energy from working out too. Oh God.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like, those kind of people, I was like, some of these people become cops.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. The ones that get bullied the most, like, definitely become. It was funny because there was a kid that, maybe not funny, but like a kid that I knew that got bullied a lot, and like he went and became a cop for a little. And I was like, that makes sense that he's like trying to retaliate, but now he's a magician, and I'm like, okay, better, because maybe he was maybe he just wasn't like, because he was always like so sweet that I'm like, I don't think he could handle it. Like maybe he went in and was like, wait, this is not for me. But like,
don't get me wrong. Like I have a buddy that's a cop, and he's great. One of my homies, really good buddy. Like, and he's really for, I always think about this. Like if I'm a cop, or just like, well, just think just for a cop in general. If you're a cop and they go, okay, this is the area that you patrol. This is the area. This is where you patrol on a regular basis. And the foundation of it is to serve and protect, right?
Right.
Well, wouldn't you want to get to know the people in that neighborhood or the area that you're patrolling? Wouldn't you want to get to know the people that live there?
Yeah.
Like wanting to.
Yeah, so that when you get like the suspicious call, you're like, no, that's that's Greg, that's like, whoever.
I can see them how they got misconception of this. And it's like
Chappelle.
Go ahead.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I cannot tell you, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just having this conversation with a coworker who he's a little older. He's like in his 40s and everything, but he was talking about like how when he was 15, between the ages of 10 to 15 years old, he grew up in Boston. And he was like, cops in Boston and New York, they have beats, And it's like, and he got to the point where it's like, you would know, like, oh, that's Officer James, Officer Frankie, Officer Charles, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, they have the same beat. And then he was like, I feel like, especially in like, a lot of areas where it's like they're not walkable. He said, I feel like in walkable cities, it's more often for police officers to have a beat where they're walking around. He said a lot of cops in Boston PD, they don't have cars. They just walk, here, this is my beat, this is my strip. And that is the issue, because that's not the case in a lot of police departments, especially some in areas like LA where things are more spread out, and especially not a lot of southern towns. Like I grew up in Virginia. Stuff is really spread out over there. You don't see a lot of cops really walking around. They're in vehicles, which creates another level of disconnection.
Right.
So it's easy, for them to pull out their weapon because they're just thinking, oh, there's a threat.
Yeah, and they're not working in their own fucking neighborhood half the time. It would be one thing if it was like, well, I live here, so it makes sense that I go out here, you know? And that's one of the things that I learned just like researching. It's like usually they send you like somewhere else where you are out of your own element and you're already uncomfortable because you don't know the area. You definitely don't know any of these people. So you get this call from like one person that's scared and you automatically like assume criminal, like when you see whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's like that's danger zone. There's got to be like 4 levels before you call that fucking guy over, you know, and someone gets killed, you know.
Yeah, I just think about there's so many ways that we could fix it. You know what I mean? Like you know, I'll see certain cops in certain neighborhoods. You know, they will know the people that exist there, but a lot of times, you know, especially when it comes to a little bit more hood areas or whatever, like not a lot of times it's like get to know these people. You know what I mean? Like if you're supposed to serve and protect these people, you like like fucking Batman obviously knows Gotham. You know,
right?
Like, no, that is some real shit. And Batman's my favorite superhero.
But it's true. It's like like if you know what it normally looks like, you'll know when it looks different. Like when something is suspicious. If you have no idea and you're never fucking there, then you won't fucking know. Like it seems like pretty simple and common sense-ish. And I'm also glad you brought up like having a friend that's like a good cop, because I recorded another episode earlier this week with somebody whose cousin is a cop and is like, he's a good cop. He's a black guy. And I'm like, how is he handling this situation? Because like, you're kind of in the middle. It's like, first of all, you're black and you're like, yes, Black Lives Matter. But second of all, you're a cop. So you can't be like defund the police because you're a cop, you know? And it's like, how does he deal with that? How do you talk to him with that? Are you having issues? Like, is there like what's going on with that? Like how does he
actually haven't like had a discussion as far as the current environment, but just knowing the guy and and watching him do his job, he's just he's great at it, and especially as a person like I've known for years, and it's like I'm like, oh, he's a cop. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, he'd be good for this job. Like he's just a caring person and just
not like an angry guy that's like now like cool, I have power.
Okay, for me, like I struggle with anger issues pretty bad. I should not become a cop.
Way to have self-awareness though, like which
that's literally
that's course 1 for cops, self-awareness training. Like
I'm the last person that should probably be an officer. When I really think about it, I'm like, well, my initial instinct is fucking violence whenever someone comes at me incorrect, so like I understand it, but like there has to be this in-depth training, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And it shouldn't be looked at as a bad thing. It's like, if you want, like what you said earlier, Chelsea, like if you want a surgeon, that's operating on you to fully know, like this, I don't know. I think it's 10 years of fucking.
Yeah. You don't want the recital. The ones that have never done it, going in on it. Yeah.
I don't want the understudy. Okay, give me who you casted in the role. Like,
exactly.
I want the lead.
Yeah.
But I mean, I used to, when I went to college, I went to one of those schools. We had a very good nursing program and a very good like medical like program. And I had friends that were in those programs, and some of them made it, some of them didn't. But the ones that didn't, they would always like, oh my gosh, I had to change my major to like, liberal arts because like I tried pre-med and it was just so hard, and they would whine and complain. I'm like, it's supposed to be hard, huh?
Yeah, it's not for you.
You're people's lives. Yeah. Like when you're a doctor, if you make a mistake, somebody could die. Yeah. Okay? They literally tell people who like are surgical residents, they're like, you will kill somebody purely because you make a mistake during your residency. Most surgical residents kill at least a few people just because they fucked up on a dosage or a type of medication or something. So it's like even the best of the best are already gonna kill some people.
Yeah. Well, that's
so you can't come in here being a C-level med student, girl. Why? You better go work a Subway and figure it out.
No, yeah. Like know your skills. Like I would never be a doctor because it's like if I see my like blood, like getting my blood taken, I'm about to pass out. So I'm like, I know I can't be a fucking surgeon, Know
thyself.
Right, exactly. But that's the whole thing is you can kill somebody with just the like anesthesia. Forget about even the cutting open part. Like it's important to really be passionate and good at it and like willing to like be aware of like what your skills are, and just having that awareness, Chappelle, to be like, no, you know what, I kind of like react before I think sometimes. Maybe I shouldn't be in a position where it could like, you know, one moment of thought and action just ruins the rest of your fucking life and kills someone.
Well,
you know?
yeah, I think about that in like all areas, like even what's going on right now. It's like, okay, we got the protests, you know, we got this, and I go, and you know, we have this movement. So I'm like, okay, where do I do my best? Okay, I probably wouldn't do my best at a protest because I'm like, you know what I mean? Like,
you'd get pissed and you'd see something.
Exactly.
And
So like I do my best through constant dialogue with people. Like, you know, I spoke ASU asked me to speak, and then you know, I did another interview with a teacher.
That was awesome.
Just having a you know, intense conversation, just, you know, sharing my story. So that's where I know where I do best is with dialogue. You know what I mean? I don't do that good online, like with social media, like, because it's just like I feel like I'm just, you know, my brain.
Yeah, and maybe you're like, you know, when somebody like a bad texter or something, and you're like, why are they so weird? Like my friend Landon, you know, that used to co-host with me at Hollywood Hotel when that was a thing, was like, Landon is the sweetest guy, the best guy, but like when you text with him, he's like, okay, period. And I'm like, why is he mad at me? Like he's just such a bad texter, you know?
Yeah. That's where I get my point across better. It's like,
where you can speak, not
like that's why when you asked me to do this, I was like, oh, of course. I don't like, I love the dialogue more than I love, like, if I'm at a protest, you know, I'm just like, man, I want to hit somebody.
Oh man.
You know, I just know where I do my best, and I think a lot of people need to realize where they do their best as far as being able to speak.
Yeah. And that's where I think I'm seeing like a big failure, like of people to just be acknowledging their awareness. All right. Guys, I think we're let's like wrap it up, and let's end on you sharing your artwork, your websites, your whatever, and I'll put all this stuff in the show notes, but tell us what you're working on so that people can go check it out.
Go ahead, Chelsea. Ladies first.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Come on, Chivalry. Yes.
Chivalry is not dead. All
yes,
right.
keep it alive. Okay, that's how you get laid. Okay, so I have my comedy album, Yes I Can. It is out on all streaming platforms right now. It's on Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify. You know, it's out there, and it's also, the video is also on YouTube. So just Yes I Can. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Chelsé G Comedy. That's at CHELSEG Comedy. And yeah, I'm just grateful. I always love working with Jessica. You know, I've always enjoyed doing your shows and stuff like that. I'm happy to do the podcast today, and this was a really healthy conversation. So I appreciate it.
Hell yeah! Thank you so much for coming, Chappelle. You go, and then we'll.
And I do my podcast called It's Managed. That's where I talk about all that shit I go through on a regular basis.
your anger issues.
That's like I said. That's where I do my best.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, It's Managed on all streaming outlets, and I only do Instagram because because
you have to.
Yeah, it's like that's and I don't feel pressure on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with other shit. So at Shapel Lacey on Instagram, and that's pretty much it.
Very cool. Yes. Well, thanks guys so much for talking to me today, and
thanks for having me.
Soon, healthily out in the world, and
hopefully, yeah.
All right, have a good rest of your weekend, guys. Bye.
Bye, thanks, guys. It was good talking to you. Have a good day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, y'all.